Welcome one and all to Wanderer Wednesdays. Today we are talking, quite fittingly, about wandering. More specifically, the focus of this episode is on the different ways to traverse an open world. As games have been getting bigger, we've needed more ways to get around them than simply walking. The solution for most games is to include fast travel. This method lets you click on any previously discovered location on your map and instantly travel there. It's a pretty simple solution, but it does have a few inbuilt issues. First off is the fact that you tend to have to already have discovered the location you want to travel to, meaning you still need to make your way to the place on foot first. Obviously this means return journeys are simpler, but you'll normally only walk the path to the location once when you play. This by itself is often viewed as a problem, as players will normally just fast travel to and from locations instead of exploring the space in between. Instead of walking through the arid badlands or the forests of Falkreath, we find ourselves looking at a loading screen. To combat this, a few games place additional restrictions with their fast travel systems. In The Witcher 3, for example, you can only travel between signposts. These are normally located in towns or places of interest, and mean you need to be standing next to one before you can travel to another. This prevents players from just teleporting away whilst in the middle of the woods somewhere, and instead forces them to at least find their way to a nearby settlement. Additionally, Fallout 4 has the Institute Teleporter and Brotherhood of Steel Vertibirds, while Skyrim has a network of carriages and boats. These are all more lore-friendly and realistic ways to travel. Time passes by and you know what's happened to get you from one place to another, even if you don't witness the full journey. The Vertibird in particular stands out as it functions very similarly to fast travel, except you move in real time across the map, simply taking the shortest route and flying through the air at a faster speed than you could on land. Sometimes the restrictions come from the players themselves. I've heard plenty of people talking about not using fast travel in Skyrim, as they'd rather explore the land and travel the roads. There is almost always the option to not use fast travel in the game, but this then puts us back to square one. How can we traverse the map, other than by simply putting one foot in front of the other? For many games, the answer is vehicles. Be it a car in Borderlands, a horse in Skyrim, or a chocobo in Final Fantasy, there are plenty of options for player-controlled vehicles in open-world games. I will add a bit of a side note here that obviously horses and chocobos aren't vehicles, they're animals, but, you know, words, that's just how this goes. These allow for speedier travel over open areas of a map, and save considerable amounts of time on long journeys. Ever tried walking from Riften to Solitude? It's quite the trek. If you've got a horse though, you'll find it's a much more manageable trip. The addition of a faster real-time traversal method becomes of greater importance as the map grows bigger. If you're playing Fallout 4 in survival mode and haven't helped out any of the factions, then you don't have any way of getting places other than walking. If you're down in the glowing sea and then a quest pops up telling you to head to Far Harbour, you're going to have one hell of a hard time getting there quickly. Not only is it in the opposite corner of the map, it also involves going through potentially dangerous locations, and having to manoeuvre around buildings and other impassable terrain. Even if you could walk in a straight line from point A to B, it would take a decent chunk of time. As soon as you get stuck in a fight, you have to divert your attention away from the journey, and these bumps in the road all add up. I'd like to make it clear that this in and of itself isn't a bad thing. If the map was small and empty, it would make open world games pretty damn boring. As it is though, there are often times when we play that we just want to quickly get to another location. Be it due to the fact that we're having to do the same journey in the game multiple times, or due to real world time limitations. We do all have things we need to do other than play games after all. In this sort of a situation, you want there to be a faster option open to you. It's all good and well saying we should enjoy the slower pace of exploring, but when it gets right down to it, we can't spend all day playing video games. And sometimes, you just gotta go fast. This is a discussion piece more than an opinion piece. At first I thought I would talk about the different ways we travel in open worlds, and then give examples of games that have got it spot on perfect. But, honestly, I don't think any game has mastered this. There are so many different factors to take into consideration that it's not difficult to see why. You want the player to be pushed towards exploring the world, and not just travelling in a straight line. But if you make them go back and forth too much, it can become tedious. Make a map too small and there's not enough variety. make it too large, and long journeys become daunting and unrealistic for some players. There is so much to take into account when designing an open world, but it's a wonder we've ended up with so many great worlds to discover. It depends on the player as well. I'm a pretty rushed guy, especially nowadays, so I can't spend an entire day playing video games non-stop, but I know people who do. For them, a huge open world is nowhere near as daunting. They'll want to spend hours upon hours just getting to the other corner of the map, but for me, it may as well be an impossibility half the time. A long time ago, I read a poem about travelling. Fortunately for all of you watching, I can't remember the poem, so you're not going to have to listen to me recite poetry. Turns out my failing memory's probably for the best. The message of this poem I do remember. It's not about reaching your destination. It's about enjoying the journey. In the comments below, I'd like you to talk about some of the journeys you've had in open worlds, and how you went about them. It could be a time when you fast travelled to half the locations on a map trying to track down a merchant with a specific item, or it could be a time you walked from one corner of the map to the other, just to see how long it would take. No matter what the story is, I'm interested in hearing about it. Additionally, as this is a new series, please do leave some feedback. If everything was good and you just want things to carry on the same way, then hit the like button. If you think I should change something though, then suggest it in the comments. As always, thanks for watching. Sarge out.